Let's hear it again for Ireland Woods. And she was raised in Unity at Everett Unity, so it's one of our own. It's great. So our theme for 2018 is the inner pilgrimage. And the truth is that Seattle Unity has embarked on a pilgrimage that will last probably another 2 or even 3 years. And the images that are conjured up when we hear the word pilgrimage is perhaps traveling to Mecca or walking the Camino or going to Machu Picchu. You know, there are so many different places we can go that are pilgrimage, that are spiritual pilgrimages. But anything really can be a pilgrimage. Going back to your childhood neighborhood and walking the neighborhood can be a pilgrimage to revisit your childhood. Yesterday at the Women's March was a pilgrimage from Capitol Hill to Seattle Center. How many of you were there? Yeah, and there were between 150 and 175,000 people in Seattle, 500,000 in LA, 300,000 in Chicago. So it's great. It was fun to see the creativity of the signs and just coming together in that energy in being lifted up. A pilgrimage is done with intention. So the intention is to show the world that our voices will not be silenced, that there's justice and equality, Black Lives Matter, equality for women. I mean, there were so many signs for so many causes yesterday that it's just great, though, to come together and to do that. And that was, in a sense, a pilgrimage. The Latin root of the word pilgrimage is peregrini, which means strange or stranger. And the journey to become a pilgrimage, according to Christine Valtner's Patner, means becoming a stranger in the service of transformation. So meaning you may not recognize yourself when you go through some of these changes. A pilgrimage is an intentional journey into this experience of unknowing and discomfort for the sake of stripping away preconceived expectations. We grow closer to God beyond our own imagination and ideas. So, again, we're hearing these words of part of a pilgrimage is the experience of unknowing and discomfort. And who wants that? Nobody, not really, right? It's like, forget about it, yeah. So the difference between a pilgrim and a tourist is that a tourist is just sort of passing through, while a pilgrim seeks to be transformed by the journey. And sometimes it's fun just to be a tourist. Sometimes we need to just be a tourist, right? We just want to flip through and see. But sometimes we also need to be a pilgrim. And what about your life? Are you a pilgrim in your life, or sometimes do we become a tourist in our own lives, right? Are we living our lives with intention, or sometimes do you feel like, maybe you're a tourist and you're just kind of passing through here and kind of just letting things happen as they happen? So Seattle Unity, again, is on this pilgrimage, and we invite you to, rather than be a tourist, to join us as fellow pilgrims as we journey together. So not all pilgrimages are voluntary. Some of the pilgrimages that we find ourselves on are because of circumstance. We think of the refugees, the thousands of refugees who are seeking asylum and seeking a new home. And it kind of originates, if we look back, to the story of Adam and Eve, right? Because they were kind of forced on a pilgrimage. They were thrown out of the Garden of Eden. So let me just share a little bit from Genesis 3:22. Then the Lord God said, this is after Eve had met the serpent and she ate the apple from the tree of knowledge, and then she says, hey, Adam, why don't you have with me? And so then God figures out what they did. So this is where we are in the story. Then the Lord God said, see, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. And now he might reach out his hand and also take from the tree of life and eat and then live forever. Therefore, the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from which he was taken. He drove out the man, and at the east of the Garden of Eden, he placed a cherubim and a sword flaming and turning to guard the way to the tree of life. So you get this image of them being kicked out, and they can't go back because there's an angel standing there with a sword of fire that says, you're not going back. And sometimes in our lives, things happen and we can't go back. That way is close to us, and we have to then move forward. Have you ever been forced out of a path that you were on and onto a new path without any warning, without your permission or cooperation, right? This is the case with Adam and Eve, and this happens when we have a loss, whether it be a marriage ends or an illness, the death of a loved one, whether it's a financial loss or job or even loss of identity. All of these things can force us into a pilgrimage. Christine Valtners-Patner says it this way: this call to embark on a rigorous journey of reclaiming ourselves and our relationship to the divine often comes without our bidding. There are many reasons that we might begin an inner pilgrimage. Perhaps we've experienced a great loss, and we know that we can't return to life as usual. Ever happened to you? That way is now closed. This is the call to which we must respond. And if we say no, it means numbing ourselves and living in denial of this great shifting that we have experienced. When we say yes, it means to acknowledge that even our moments of profound sorrow can lead us to renewed vision and life. So the way becomes closed. And if you can go with it, it leads to a transformation. Now, it's no secret that the South Lake Union neighborhood all around us is changing. And in a sense, Seattle Unity is kind of like Adam and Eve being thrown out of the Garden of Eden, right? Because we looked at, the board 4 years ago looked at some of the plans that were happening around here, and we asked ourselves, how do we fit into this new place that South Lake Union will become? We had no idea that it would look like it's beginning to look right now. And so the SUV team was formed, the Seattle Unity Visioning team was formed to begin to scope that out. We had community meetings asking the question, so what does it look like for us to be here? Do we stay in this building, do nothing? Do we move? Do we change it? What do we do? And so the conclusion was come to, let's sell off part of the property so that we can then rebuild and create a space for future generations that is more welcoming, that is more energy efficient, that works better for us. And so we were put out onto this pilgrimage. We've been put out onto this pilgrimage. So I'm going to just pause for a moment and I was in the Bahamas for the last couple of weeks on kind of a pilgrimage, a return to a place that I had lived in 79 and 80. And it was different. It was so different. Everything had changed. I mean, you'd expect it. It's been like, 40 years since I've been there? What? Things don't stay the same? And it was the anniversary of the ashram. It was the 50th anniversary when I was there, so it was wonderful to be there. But I saw so many changes. There were, it was pretty rustic when I was there, and it's still pretty rustic, but there's, more bathrooms, there's more showers, there's even a couple of luxury houses that they built for people to stay in. They built a brand new temple. They remodeled the old temple. There were 350 people there, 100-something taking yoga teachers training, and it was just quite an amazing experience to be there. And what I noticed is that the world had entered into the ashram in a way that it never had before, because it used to be pretty isolated. I lived there in 1980. I didn't even know Mount St. Helens blew when it blew. That's how little the news got to any of us. And as I was sitting in meditation, I'm watching people get up and go get a cup of tea and a glass of water. I'm like, what are they doing, I mean, if we did that 40 years ago, it would have been like, how dare you, sit down and meditate. And they got their phones, and yes, I did take some pictures of people meditating. Yes, I did. But the world has entered into the ashram in a way that it never had before. And as I was looking around, every time I have these ghosts and just looking at all these changes around me, and it was wonderful, actually. It was, even though there were ghosts for me, it was wonderful to see those. So for me, that is a pilgrimage. And while I was down there, I didn't have the intention of doing a fast, although I knew that there was one during the time period that I was there. But it was more money than I wanted to spend, so I didn't do it. And then a night before it started at dinner, a woman from New Jersey came and sat, and she's like, I'm here for the detox. And I'm like, oh yeah? She goes, yeah, I do it every year. And I lose 10 pounds and I feel so good and it's great, you should do it. I said, well, I was gonna do it, but I don't like the price. And she goes, no, it's way cheaper than what you think because you paid an ashram fee. So whatever, I go check, sure enough, it's less. And I'm like, nah, I don't really wanna do that. This is enough for me. Just doing yoga and eating vegetarian is enough, you know? So I let it go, and then I thought, well, maybe I should go. So I cast a fleece. I said, okay, God, if I'm supposed to do this detox thing, then someone has got to literally drag me to the place, because otherwise I'm not going. And I'm in yoga in the morning, 9 o'clock, the detox starts. I'm like, they're doing initiation. I'm like, okay, I'm in yoga. It ain't happening. It's over. It wasn't meant to be. And then I go to breakfast, and it was packed, and there was one seat next to me. And this woman snakes around and comes and sits down with a big plate of foods. We start talking. Hi. She says, I'm here for the detox. I go, you missed it. I go, it started this morning. You're supposed to start fasting now. And she's got this big plate of food, and she's like, I'm not throwing this food out. I'm eating this food. So I'll go to the detox after. She goes, are you going to do it? I said, nah, it's already started. Well, so what's already started? Long story short, she's like, you have to go. And she literally dragged me. She did. She's like, what do you do for a living? I said, I'm a minister. You need to do this. You need to do this. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know where it is. I know where it is. I know what building it's in. Come on. I'm going to take you, and I'm going to introduce you to the leader, and you're going to go, and you don't have to say yes, but you're going to go. So finish your food, and let's go. So we did, and I did, and I was like, okay, God, So we ate raw foods for 3 days, fasted on juice for 5, and raw foods for 2. It was great. It was really a wonderful experience. But it's interesting because when we enter into things with intention of transformation, it's like people and things and events show up, right, to sort of guide us to where we need to be for our highest. So. Recall those times when you went back to a beloved place and it was no longer the same. Like maybe it's a vacation place that you love to go to, and you haven't been there in a while, and you go back and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so different. Or maybe it's when you go back to your grammar school, or your high school, or your old neighborhood, and you look and you go, oh my gosh, look at how the changes are. How does it make you feel? Do you feel nostalgic? Do you feel sad? Do you feel proud? You know, do you feel lost? I know sometimes when I go back to Chicago, I don't even know where I am. I'm like, I don't recognize any of this. And yet, we know that someone had to lead and implement these changes, right? And I am so grateful to the director of the Shivananda Ashram, who's been there for 27 years, that he instituted these changes that have happened back there. Not only did he institute and vision them, but he stayed for them to manifest. And I can't imagine the chaos and the noise that they lived through to get this to transform. And you know what? This is where we are right now. All we have to do is look out this door, and we see the chaos, and we see the noise, and we are in the midst of that change. So a pilgrimage begins not when we get to our destination or we put our foot on the road. So the pilgrimage doesn't begin if you're walking the Camino when you get to Spain. It doesn't begin when you get to Machu Picchu or to Mecca. Your pilgrimage begins when you have the intention to go, when you buy your plane ticket, when you buy your train ticket, when you're like, I'm going on this journey. And Seattle Unity bought our plane ticket for this pilgrimage a couple of years ago when we made that decision to move forward. And even though we won't be leaving here for another year, we're on our way. So what I want to do is I want to show you some of the changes that we're living in right now, because it is overwhelming, and I think sometimes without looking back, we don't see it. So just watch this and just see your response. And if we could have a light, you know, maybe this light off, that would be helpful. Now we're going to watch that again a second time. But what I want to ask you after you watch this, what is the feeling you get in your body when you watch it? Just short, throw it out. Stress. Excitement. Happening fast. What? Change. Pride. So it's all those things, isn't it? It's sorrow, it's stress, it's excitement, it's pride, it's grief, it's all of those things of changing. And that's the kind of energy that is outside of us right now. It's the kind of energy that we're experiencing, whether we're conscious of it or not. So what I'd like to do is for us to watch it a second time, but this time I'm going to invite you to breathe and make it a meditation and to bless these changes and this experience, okay? So let's just breathe together for a moment. So I invite you just to relax and be open and know that the unchanging principle in the universe is God. And so let's just take a deep breath. And again. And so now as you watch this video, keep breathing. Keep breathing. Make it a meditation. Thank you, Mariah. So was it a little better when you were breathing? So this is the change. It's happening fast all around us. And it's the same change that the ashram did, and I was not even there for it, but I get to experience the benefits of it. I get to live the benefits of it. And so it is with the changes that are going on around us right now, here and outside. We may not get to experience all the benefits of the changes, but future generations will. So let's close with a prayer. And so we recognize that there is God, the unchanging principle behind all things. That within this whirlwind of change, whether it be outside or in here or in your life, we recognize that there is God which does not change, which is always the same. And it is in this place that we are safe, that we are calm. So know that you are not here by accident in this place and this time, that you are here by divine appointment to be a part of this unfolding that's happening around us. You have been called to these changes. And we know that we can't return to life as usual, for that way is now closed. And this is the call with which we must respond. And so we say yes. We say yes to being a pilgrim. We say yes to this inner pilgrimage of our own lives and in the life of Seattle Unity. We are not tourists here. We are pilgrims. May our words be blessed. May every step we take be blessed. And the work that is before us. And it is so.